I just moved them around for timing. Yep. And then press this because you do this on the side. Okay, you do it. Just press got it.
Funny you say that.
That's weird doing your mouse pad this way.
All right, seeing that it's
7:01.
7:01, I will open the Conservation Commission hearing for February 14th, happy Valentine's Day, at 7 o'clock. And before we start the meeting, I'll mention that there are two members online. Steve,
Yes.
he's on that screen, that's why, because it just doesn't show everybody.
Yeah.
And Hannah, I'm sorry, and Ariane Barton are also online, and we don't know about Noel status.
She's not.
Okay, so I know, at least it's not on. No, so the present on site today are Vice Chair Neil Stanley, and myself, Mike O'Haron, Chair. So we do have a quorum, 4 people, 2 online, 2 in person. And I'd like to have several new to the Conservation Commission meetings people that Hannah will provide introductory
Just in general.
presentation for.
Oh, okay. Well, to my left is our intern Kaya. And then across from us, we have Don and James, who are potential commissioners once they're sworn in.
Nice to meet you. Sorry I couldn't meet you in person.
Meet you virtually.
Yeah. Yes, welcome, Kaya. Nice to see you. Ladies. Thanks for making the time and being here. So we have on the agenda a continuous hearing for notice of intent for this one. Installation 0 Maple Street, Maplegate. Installation of electric lines, part of the proposed solar array parcel 3 project on the buffer subject. The parcel located within the 100-foot buffer zone to BBW's Daniel Serber is the applicant, and Daniel Wells or their stand-in is going to be the representative today from LEC Environmental. You are, sir?
Greg DeBona with Polar Engineering, actually.
Bowler, okay. So you're working with LEC, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. We're all part of the same team. We're the ones who prepared the actual drawings and the civil package that went in with the NOI.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Dan is also, I believe, on Zoom, or if he's not on yet, he'll be on shortly. We also have Allison Fennell with Brown Legal. She's on Zoom as well. She's
Greetings.
our land use attorney team for the project.
Okay. We were provided with here a review comments that were provided by Matt Kern, and he is here tonight to illuminate us on additional points of that. I think we probably would like to hear if you have anything first to add that's going to be germane to the conversation. And if not, I'd have Matt go through those points that he brought up. And if the commission has any, as Matt goes through those, if the commission either online commissioners or in person have anything that they'd like to get more information about as we go through the points, hopefully fairly quickly, they should bring them up at that time. That'd be great. All right. So you have any?
No, just a reminder that we did have a site walk a few weeks back. So Dan Wells was on site. We were there as well.
Yes, and I was there with one of the Steve, another commission member.
Perfect. Yes, and then we did receive the letter as well. So I've had a chance to go through it. So beyond that, I don't really actually have too much else. But I do have a lot of answers to the comments and suggestions. So we can address them either one by one or however you'd like me to go through it.
I think what I'd like to do is just go through for expediency's sake. Go through them. Matt can read off what the comment was, add any additional clarification if you need it. You can respond if you like to briefly. We are going to get all that in writing down the road. I'm hearing from you. And we can then see if there's additional things that come out of that, like we need to review this once more. We'll just make a note. This one's still not completely satisfied. And then hopefully get it shrunk down from how many was on?
7.
7 down to maybe 1 or 2, if that's what it does. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Thanks. For the benefit of new folks and the online folks, I'm Matt Byrne, senior ecologist with BSC Group, and a regular peer review consultant for the commission.
Matt, hold on a second. Let me just see if they're too far away from them. Allison, as an example of somebody or Ariane, can you guys hear Matt okay?
Yes.
Move up to the table.
Yes, yep, I can hear him perfectly. Thank you.
All right, just want to make sure. Good, Matt.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so we did have a site visit on the 20th of January and got a little cold out there, but it was a fine morning to take a look at things. You know, it's a relatively straightforward project. It's buffer zone work, and there is work proposed with a jack and bore installation of the proposed service line underneath a wetland resource. So one thing that, you know, the first comment is that the erosion control barrier, which I understand is sort of hypothetical, I suppose, doesn't coincide with the limit of work shown on the plan. And so the comment is to recommend to tighten that up and make the limit of work as reduced as possible to reduce impacts to buffer zone. And then show that as the limit of the erosion control barrier. The second comment is that the commission may consider a special condition that requires establishment of the erosion control barrier and marking in the field so that you can review it before work begins. Common thing to have done. And that actually may be one of your standard conditions. So that may be strange. Third comment is that you know, the buffer zone work, it provides an opportunity to look for invasive species that may be present on site and to deal with those as a mitigative measure. It didn't look like there was a ton out there, but it's always worth taking a look at, seeing if there's an opportunity to improve the resource areas. Comment 4, the applicant should provide an inventory of mature trees that need to be taken out for this project. And make a determination whether or not there should be any mitigation measure for removal of trees that might be required for this work. Comment 5, applicant should discuss the necessity for restoration within the project limit of work. If there is going to be restoration work, replanting, what have you, let's have a conversation about what species are used, you know, as opposed to just a simple winter rye cover or something like that. We can make improvements there. The applicant presented an alternatives analysis under the wetlands, the bylaw. And I recommended to Dan that the alternatives analysis should evaluate the alternative of using the existing access road for the right of way that enters just to the north of where the proposed project is. That may be a non-starter with the utility, but it should at least be explored and put on paper. And then the final point was that there were some questions brought up on site about whether or not the jack and bore process presents a potential risk to the wetland in terms of its water budget. And the request is for the applicant to provide some information relative to previous experience or other information you can offer to demonstrate that this kind of installation won't risk changing the hydrology of the groundwater underneath the stream and wetland at the site to make sure there aren't unintended impacts as a result. Those were the total of our comments for this project.
All right, thank you, Matt. You want to respond to any of those in particular?
No, so I think we have the ability to address all of these pretty easily. Some of these can be either discussed kind of quickly now or just talk about how we can address it on the plans. the drawing I have now, it was just a blow up of the one that was included in the set, but it was such a small area, I felt maybe if I zoomed it out, or zoomed it in, I should say, it'd be a little bit more clear as to kind of like the limit of what we're really doing. And the area shaded in yellow is really that buffer area of disturbance, about 1,200 square feet, kind of right along the frontage of the road. So a lot of these, some of these are just kind of quick items that we can fix on the plans, like the number one was the erosion control, we'll just tighten that up. I actually already tightened it up on this one exhibit, but you're right, on the old plan, it went a little bit further outside. But we don't need it to, because we made the area smaller in terms of what we were disturbing. The special condition about going ahead and flagging the limit of disturbance prior to construction, it makes sense to me. No issue there. We can just add that note to the plan to document it so the contractor knows he has to have it flagged and identified. We did actually go out there. Dan did go and look at the invasive species and took a bit of an inventory of some plants that were out there. And the only thing I just wanted to kind of clarify with the board is the intent to mitigate the area that we're disturbing, or how far do we extend beyond our area of work? Because we're primarily trying to just leave most of that area alone and untouched. We have no problem cleaning up all the invasives or anything that within the area of our work. But how far are we expected to go outside of that is really the question.
Good news is you don't have to leave Bellingham.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take much to leave Bellingham and going to Franklin, so we are right over the border. But yes, so just trying to get some clarity as to what that usually looks like, so when I note it on the plan, so the contractor understands like what their scope of work is.
I would say, and Matt, please chime in, that my semi-layman's point of view would be that if you pull the invasive species that are right in the immediate area that is being worked on, the immediate area of impact, and 1, 2, 3, 5 feet away, there is another one of the same type of invasive species or a different one that is prone to spreading rapidly.
Yep.
i.e. whatever, the wetlands, but it might be there, is invasive. It's not gonna do a whole lot of good just to pick at that one area and then not have some ability to have the area retain the invasive free status for a while. It's eventually going to, because we want it to restore to natural setting, have some invasive species probably propagate eventually in there. But I would say, depending on the species of invasive plants that you're looking at and how fast and rapid their spread is, how prone they are, and how much they go outside of the immediate resource area, if they just like a mat of some particular species that's everywhere, going too far isn't going to make a whole lot of sense. But if there's some rationale in the wetland scientist world for it, for doing it, I don't want to say 5 feet beyond all the way around or anything like that, if that doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it would impact at what level of disturbance is it gonna take to get rid of some of these too? Are we causing more damage going outside the disturbed area to remove these things than the benefit that we're gonna get from taking out basically?
Yeah, I mean, this area along the front is just a lot of down trees, old trees, just typical like understory forest litter, if you will. But there are some areas where there's some like multifloral rose that really shouldn't be there, and there's some burning bush that really shouldn't be there. There's a couple of vines that Dan identified that, we could try to clean up. And so maybe the answer is, maybe I just add some notes on the plans about, maybe evaluating 10 to 15 feet outside of the limit of what we're showing as work to also identify for invasive species that need to be remediated. And my expectation would be it's surface removal, dig up the plant and that's it. I would expect, I don't think there's much more to be done there, but I can certainly add that onto the plans, and that doesn't seem to be a problem. There was a number 4 had to do with the inventory of trees. I was actually at the site earlier today. I walked the area of intended disturbance. There are 4 trees out there that would be coming down that are greater than 6-inch caliper. It's 1 pine, 1 oak, and then basically two maples. So that would have to be I've identified them. The only, question is the level of, replacement. that area is primarily being cleared just so we can put 2 utility poles with overhead lines. So, there's usually a limitation to how many trees you can kind of put right directly under the utility lines. I do think there's a little bit of space right along the frontage where maybe I can fit 1 or 2 more trees in as part of replacements. The only other thing I could also maybe suggest is in some of the areas where we do have some clearing out there, that might be outside of our work, but just identify it as put another replacement tree in to kind of backfill, almost the same approach of if we're gonna go a little bit outside to clean up some of the invasives, do we backfill the hole with a new tree or plant a couple kind of right along the fringe? Because it is definitely not like a very densely wooded frontage there. There's a lot of gaps and a lot of ability just to infill some. So that's where I think maybe we can do the mitigation to replace the 4 trees that were taken out.
Are you in agreement? with
Yeah,
that?
that seems reasonable, and I think you could work with Dan on.
Yeah,
appropriate
species and stuff, okay.
species, Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of ties into that restoration. Yeah, typically because we're just gonna have the poles and then the pad there. We do have a small area of gravel that we're proposing as part of a pull off for any sort of maintenance or utility companies to get to the poles. It's a gravel area that's about the size for one parking one car. The rest of the area was generally intended to be more of a wetland type seed mix. But I think because we're gonna put in a couple of the replacement plants, maybe there's some, Dan mentioned to me earlier that a bunch of high bush blueberry that's kind of out there, get some more of those to backfill somewhere around the perimeter. Nothing that was gonna grow up and become a problem for the power lines. So we can identify that as part of some of that restoration planting. The next one was number 6, sorry, the right of way. So, yeah, we do have, that's where we started, was the alternative of trying to use the New England Power easement. We reached out to them. We got a pretty quick response of no. They are not allowing us access or ability to put our utilities down there. Access easement, even though that easement comes onto our property and we gave the easement, they did not allow us to reuse that same easement for our access to put in these utilities. So that was absolutely our first approach. We did go down that road, and this now is what you're looking at now is really our only secondary approach, which is to get the utility tie-in. So
And you can provide that document.
yes, we have email correspondence with the basically rejection of the request.
The commission will need to include that in findings.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. And the last one just has to do with, I think, the comments about the jack and bore. So we do have 2 other projects where we've used that method to go directly under streams. So kind of a similar situation with streams and wetlands. We've found that it's very effective for that type of situation. It's kind of one of the main reasons we're using it. We're not expecting any concerns about impacting the groundwater or having something kind of like leaching through. Typically at this point, the stream that's out there, the wetland that's out there is very shallow. I mean, I just walked literally right through it all today. There's no actually permanent water body or anything. But when we do the jack and bore, we're gonna be down about 8 feet in our sending and receiving bits. And be able to send it pretty deep underneath. So we'll have plenty of clearance underneath any of that kind of that saturation zone. So I mean, I don't know what kind of examples you want or
I think
other
about,
projects.
and we're gonna be at about, and this not, the comments that we've heard today, including the ones tonight.
Yeah.
Gave at least people that were walking the site, Matt, myself and Steve, and perhaps other commissioners who've been looking at this. Some less degree of comfort that it was really going to clear the bottom of the stream by, and the saturated soil just at the base of the stream. It's a pretty good flowing stream. When we were walking there, it was frozen above, but you could see water
Right.
depth, some depth. I didn't try to break through to see how deep my, ankle,
Right.
what's my knee or whatever. But, the idea of a permanent hard surface that is below a super saturated area, the stream bed,
Right,
then wicking away water potentially and or changing the contour of the stream and or the water table in the area. It would be helpful to know if there's some way to determine it approximately in the area that's gonna be crossed. How deep are we talking about by doing maybe a small, I don't wanna say test pit necessarily, but
right,
some sort of boring next to the area outside the stream itself. That would, you could go down and say, okay, we've got, we know the stream itself because we just measured this 2 feet deep.
right,
At the deepest point in the area we're gonna be crossing, and the saturated soil off to the side here, where it's pouring down, seems to be about another 1.5 or 2 feet below that, and then it becomes pretty, whatever, I don't say stratified, but harder and less permeable. Then we'd have a better sense that if you are at 8 feet or 10 feet, some actual defined number instead of about 8 feet, right? Then we know we have a clearance of 6 feet, and then if your documentation or past history of experience like this shows that that kind of gap with a moving stream body as opposed to a pond or whatever, I don't know what you might have gone under elsewhere, then that
Yeah.
would be helpful to have that documentation or information at hand.
okay.
Matt, anything else you can think of for that? Is that?
No. Did you have to do test pits before sort of in your investigation of how you're gonna approach it?
So we did as part of the prior approvals for those projects, but it is the common practice of the contractor to do this type of borings to figure out what depth they have to do their sending and receiving pit. So they typically do that as part of the installation method, because the last thing they want to do is be driving it through the wet condition as well. And I think we are obligated to be at least 3 or 4 feet below the bottom of what is anticipated to be the stream crossing point. So, we do have to determine that clearance, and part of that could be the time of year of when it's being installed, and then that kind of fluctuates. So that's why they typically do the testing at the time of install, at either ends of the receiving pits. But I can, talk over with Dan, maybe there's a way to get out there and do some hand augering just to get a feel for what it is now. In the areas that we're talking about in terms of those areas of the pits, and see if we can try to quantify this a little bit better in terms of what that depth would be.
Okay.
And the method is that using bentonite, or is it? You're
It
pounding
seems like
this?
the bentonite is more when you're using directional drilling,
Yep, so we're not.
and
not
we're
doing it
proposing
direct.
more of a jack and bore,
Okay.
which uses more of a steel
Yep.
sleeve casing. So, we wouldn't have
Drive it
the,
through and,
yeah,
right, I just wanted to, because that's one of our concerns is leaching out of it.
Right.
Simply clay underneath,
right,
potentially perforating it.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
Steve or Ariane, any questions from you?
Not from me.
Steve might have microphone issues, though.
All right, Steve, if you.
I'm all set, no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
You could have them blink or something.
yeah. Any other comments, Steve, Matt, or, yeah? All right, yeah, timing of the investigation for determining your depth, if it can be relayed to us, I mean, if it looks like if you had approval shortly from the commission, what else do you have to do before you're ready to actually plan to start doing this, and when would you want to do this, ideally season wise?
So, our next steps here, we do have the planning board coming up in March 28th. That's the next meeting date that we got moved to on the planning agenda. Ideally, we'd like to have, confirmation or acceptance of the application prior to that, because they like to always hear how, things are going with Conservation Commission. So, they won't take any action until we get feedback from you guys. We are still, the rest of this project is also still under review currently with Franklin as well. So, but our hope is that we get through all of our approvals like the spring, and then it's just gonna be a matter of how quickly our client can get everything mobilized. There is an understanding, I believe, that our north project would be happening first before south, so I don't know for sure if it's happening this year under construction. It might be a next spring start, but we're still looking to get our approvals as soon as possible, because all the approvals are tied to our ability to close on the property and move forward. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a real answer. but-
Sometimes in projects where you're going under, around, through, over, whatever, a water body, whether it's stream or some other source of resource area, we often try to specify do it at the least time, at least
Yeah.
the driest period possible, basically,
Yeah.
midsummer, say, for example, if it's a stream, it might be dried up the most to make it the least impactful on the water body and the resource area itself, but since you're going under it, it's a little less of an issue, and frankly, given the timing involved, that you have other project issues
Yeah.
lined up ahead of it, I think specifying that it would be tough to do, other than that's our preference strongly, I think still, even though you're going under it and not, you know,
Yep,
having to divert the water or anything else.
Yeah, it's a pretty large, it's a very large installation process, right? So I think it's likely gonna span several seasons of construction. So there's probably the flexibility for the contractor to time it. In other words, it doesn't have to happen right away. It will just be something we'll need to get in eventually to make our electric connection, but no reason necessarily that those conduits have to happen in the first 3 months of construction. It could happen in the last 3 months of construction.
Because that's your final connection piece.
Absolutely. So, yeah, so at the end of the day, everything we're doing, all the development is on the Franklin side of the property for the project. So the only thing running through is the utility connection point to get it back to the grid. Yeah.
So could a special condition be something like this will be done at low flow period?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think we'll have that flexibility to be able to do it. And then based on when we start, we either do it at the beginning or do it at the end. Because again, we'll have a pretty lengthy span of installation time.
Any other questions, points? All right, I think what we're gonna need to get is a sense, continue this until we have received the revised plans showing the reduced scope, area for erosion control, perhaps some documentation about, the actual under the boring process, how your estimate depth is, if you're able to do a test. Dig, whatever you want to call it, boring, augering, whatever, to get some concrete sense of the way things are in the near future. Next short period of time, several weeks, days, whatever, and add that to it. Was there anything else? I'm trying to think of all this, the other 6 points. Other than those two, Matt, was there anything else that we needed information wise? Oh, your suggested plans for the plantings, I mean, as far as you
Yep,
develop those
yep.
done and so forth, the replacement trees and so forth, the approximate areas, what type, and then a sense maybe of how you talking to between Dan and your company and Matt, having them come to some sort of agreement on the invasive species removal process, methodology and impacts, and therefore the scope that you propose is like, doesn't make sense to go further than this because we do more damage than good. Of course, it's winter time out there, so it's hard to even tell what's gonna be coming up in the springtime, but I guess you get a sense of some of the stuff that's residual there. All right, I think if we get that information, we'll be well in hand to making a final decision to, if everything looks good, to go ahead and decide on vote on it. So I'll accept a motion to continue the hearing until, how are we looking for the?
Oh, for the-
Well, first off, let me ask you,
Oh.
when would you like to put it off to get that information ready? I don't.
So most of it luckily is, I'd say 1 through 6 is already most of the way out of the way. In fact, we have plans going out this week that already have these changes in them because we're getting a resubmission back out for Franklin as well. It's really number 7 is probably the only one that I gotta coordinate to figure out how quickly can I get some site soil tests done. But beyond that, I think I'll have responses in pretty quickly.
So, what are the 2 dates in March?
The, March 13th or the 27th. I don't have anything on either of those.
You think you'd be right by 13th, want to try?
I think so.
We
We
can-
can,
we
we
can
have to have
continue.
everything resubmitted by to get on 13.
Yeah, so-
The week before, so
Yeah,
that I can make
basically,
sure I can
okay.
share it.
Yeah, okay.
And if you run into a problem, and again, we're still in winter time here.
Yeah, yeah.
We can continue to start progress, it's not like you're not doing anything with the project, and so we could always, you could always request a continuance is what you could do.
Okay, perfect. Well, I like that idea. If we can go to the 13th for now, and then if for some reason something happens, I'll reach out and maybe we extended to the 27th, but
Okay.
my guess is we'll be in good shape, to get everything back before that.
All right, I'll accept the motion to continue this hearing to the evening of March 13th, tentatively at 7 PM. The exact time is determined the week before on the agenda, just FYI.
So moved.
Got it
Second.
first? Thank you, Ariane, seconded online, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I, Ariane.
Steve, I.
Thank you, we have 4 ayes. Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
You all appreciate it. Be back soon.
Night.
You need me to share the agenda again? I'm the worst.
I'll be doing on that too, but. This is fine. I'm back.
That's the what you're doing.
Right.
The festival continues.
Yes, well, it's sort of on track, so at 7:32 here, we're going to continue to the next hearing, which is going to be a continuation. There's a notice of intent for Blackstone and North Street project, 12 per-unit townhouse buildings with stormwater management system. John Mushan, and Ryan Racine are the applicant and representative, and they have requested a continuation to the February 28th meeting due to ongoing, I assume, plan changes and or planning board related issues. Matt, thank you very much. Have a nice
You're
night.
welcome. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you.
fellas.
See you, Matt.
See ya.
And so I will accept a motion to continue the notice of intent hearing for Blackstone North Streets to the evening of February 28th. Time to be determined exactly, but we'll say 7 PM for the record for now.
So moved.
Thank you, Ariane online. Moved. Second. Second, Neil, thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none. All right, we will take a vote. All in favor?
Steve, I.
Ariane, I.
Okay, thank you. And Neil, I, and myself, I. So that's unanimous vote. 4, thank you. I'll take a break for a second because I want to let Hannah do another introduction.
This is Claudia. She is our other intern. Yep, so we have 2 interns.
And they are, for the record, and those online and wondering, those positions have been created by Hannah in an attempt to broaden our base of both learning for people who want to do so and can gain information about and how the administrative and environmental process works in the town, as well as to gain a lot of good support for Hannah, who's working on a number of projects in town here in the next couple of months. So at least looks like 4 months.
Yeah.
We'll be benefiting from presence future. Thank you very much for coming tonight. And if you have questions, either going in the meeting or after the meeting, or think of something after a week later, or whatever, feel free to, through Hannah or me or whatever, just reach out.
Claudia and Kaya, welcome aboard.
That's Steve, he's on
Thank
the
you.
board members, and
Good to have you.
Ariane is there too as well. Yeah. We have 1 member who's not on in the meeting tonight, either online or person, Noel. And we have 2 people here who you didn't yet. Which is Don and James, who have applied to be commissioners with the selectmen. That's the process, and they're waiting for a final vote. They've done their interview process and now have to go through the rest of the administrative process of being approved officially and then being sworn in before they can actually vote in meetings, but they can certainly participate by asking questions and being present. So that's great. We're welcome the opportunity to get to a full board after being a couple people under for a while. Okay, we have a 7:30 continued request for continuation hearing. It's a notice of intent for 85 Mendon Street, proposed Lucille Steakhouse within a 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland, VGW. Paul and Julie Rogers are the applicants, Representative Michael Dryden from Allen Associates, Engineering Associates, Inc. They have requested a hearing also to the 28th of February.
They did receive their peer review drainage report, which I shared,
Did see that.
and they just wanted more time.
Yeah, I have walked the site with Steve, on the same day we walked the site up 0 Maple Street, Maplegate, 0 Maple Street, whatever, for the electrical line installation, and It's basically a flat field where the current Pete's Bluebird is and drops off very steeply, almost vertically. I don't know that I've seen almost any site with that steep a slope into a wetlands down below Chess. We know it's a wetlands because there's a huge truck tire parked down the bottom of it, which is how Bellingham, you can tell wetlands.
Yeah, you can tell a wetland in Bellingham has a tire in it.
Yeah, no matter how far out in the woods the wetlands is, somebody drags a tire out there and sticks it. I don't know why it is, but they pop up there. Anyway, so the site, will have some drainage going out the backside of that slope, through a riprap system that we spent a little bit of time talking about. I had some concerns about it being that steep a slope, but they will be able to address that when we have the hearing, and see if there's any other concerns or questions that come up as far as the peer review it is in the portal, and feel free to access that if you're members who have not yet seen it and take a look at it. I don't know that we can officially do so, but certainly have either of you gentlemen had access, has talked to?
Yeah, so I've gone on the portal. I didn't
Oh, yeah.
see this particular one. I was looking,
Did I?
Yeah, I
Did
saw it
you-
on there, so.
maybe I was on it too
It
It
soon.
might have been just recently,
Yeah.
but yeah, Phil, I was gonna say, feel free to start checking that stuff out and come up with questions or.
BSC, the firm.
BSC is the firm that we in the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board do joint peer reviews usually. They use, you have for many years used the same company, BSC. Planning Board is making some changes and using and perhaps a different firm. BSC has both civil and what's the other term for engineering? Environmental engineering as well. Well, environmental engineering, but not wetland science as well. So Matt Burns is the wetland scientist. We use him for the wetland side of things, but they have
Environmental
name. What's our engineer's name from BSC? Dan?
Dom?
Dominic, yes, Dominic, I forget his last name, is the person who did the review of this particular project, 85 Mendon Streets, the stormwater. So they'll look at that same company will look at, usually the planning board side, they look at the stormwater management systems as far as the scope, does it meet the drainage, so from an engineering point of view, the planning board cares about that and many other issues, parking, access, a variety of things. And so the peer review company will be paid for by the person who's the applicant, but supervised / responsible to us, the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board. And we share the information really between ourselves, even if it's two different companies, they have an engineering on their side, planning, and we have somebody in BSC. Not every project requires both to be reviewed, environmental as well as engineering. So in this particular project, there really is almost no environmental review. It's very clear where the wetlands is. In this case, it's the bottom of a very steep slope. There's no other wetlands or anything within 100 feet that they're going to be doing that will impact the wetlands. So it's pretty much an engineering thing, except where it drops off and water goes out and potentially down the slope. So we have a very narrow window of responsibility and ability to regulate or question, and we can ask questions, but generally the planning board does a pretty thorough job too of looking through everything and covering a lot of things, and we overlap. So when the final.
Especially in the drainage.
Right. You know, they don't, even if it's a great system that's designed, if it's gonna flow out in an area or not, you know, in a way that shouldn't or whatever, we wanna make sure that that's. So we don't step on each other's toes, but we also make sure that the final set of plans, which goes on record, is legally filed with both town boards, the building inspectors and state and the deeds and everything else tied into it, is the same document. Sometimes if there's a change in the planning board, something in the design, and we don't get word of that, we could be dealing with two different sets of plans. So we've reviewed environmental, approved one set of plans and changes. So we always try to make sure that the final plans of record are the same ones that we've approved and planning board. So Hannah works very closely with her counterpart on the planning board side of things and make sure that that helps happen. So we don't have to worry about that too much, but it's a good process. It works well. And so projects get moved along, but they get moved along deliberately and after thoroughly making sure that things are being done both the regulations and the science are what we look at, and if it meets those and within our jurisdiction to do so, we act accordingly, approve things or make modifications. If it's outside of our jurisdiction, more than 100 feet away from a resource area, for example, we often can't do anything about it, whether we don't like it or agree with it, or it's not a good practice or anything. We can make a comment, but we can't regulate it. So we have to stay within our lane, so to speak, but within that, we try to make sure that it meets both the local bylaws as well as the state DEP regulations. And so you'll see in the agenda, for example, a DEP number and a
EWP.
BWP thing. That one, Bellingham Wetlands Protection numbers, they have to have for each project that's being applied for, both a DEP number and a Bellingham bylaw, wetlands bylaw number, or else the project isn't finally, accepted and reviewed. Any other questions, you guys, or any questions, you guys? You know, I have any, but any questions, you guys?
No.
Okay. All right, so just try to get a little perspective and it helps.
In terms of
Yes.
the portal, which all four of you have access to, I try my best to, anything that is updated and sent to me, I tell representatives like Friday by like 9 AM. So that I give you guys the weekend plus a couple weekdays to look over. If there was anything extremely important that comes in late, I would text you or, yeah. But if it's not in here in a timely manner, then like, I don't expect you to have the time to like review it. So just so you know.
Okay. All right, so it is. Order of, what's our timing? I've lost the agenda.
Well, 7:30 is also technically,
Right.
10:52 South Main. Oh, do you want to look at the agenda? Sorry.
Well, I thought,
You can.
if you don't mind,
Yeah, we're running
I
late
know.
for 10:52.
yes. Okay, so there's no reason not to move right along to 10:52 South Main Street. Construction of, and this is a notice of intent for construction of a drainage pipe to replace the failing drainage pipe located within 100-foot buffer zone to BVW, Board of Vegetation Wetlands. Glendon Wagner is the applicant and Chris Sirik from DPW in Bellingham is the representative. Is Chris on?
No, he told me he would try. He's still out.
Is Nate a representative for?
Nate is actually for National Grid and other business.
Gotcha, okay. All right.
I can represent some of it since I went on the site.
Right, you can provide an update. There were pictures in the portal, and quite a few pictures in the portal, which gave a sense of some of the, both the dam areas at the end of it. And actually, since this will be a good example of how you, where you are with your interns, you could provide a little update.
I think somebody from the applicant should be
I think so
here
too.
to have the hearing.
Yes, to actually have the hearing,
Right.
actually be,
We have to have an applicant here for the hearing.
I was gonna say,
On last time and he was out. I thought he was gonna be on again tonight as well.
Yeah, I thought so too.
'Cause he was on the last one.
he was online, yeah,
I don't know.
informationally, because this was on the portal and for the members that haven't had a chance to see it, can you just describe the pictures? You took these, right, Hannah?
Technically someone with a better camera, but I was there while he
That's
took
okay.
them.
So if, just, because I want to make sure I understood them all, and that would really be opening the hearing for discussion or decision making or anything. It'd be just helpful to, so maybe Chris will come online if we can get that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Chris wasn't at this sidewalks anyways, he had Sean Harrington was there as a representative of DPW. So I don't know what order I put these photos in, to be honest, but this is the dam that's on the south side of the lake. Still very much flowing and I think we went out there like not near like a post-storm or anything like that.
So Don James, are you aware where we're talking about in town? Do you know where the middle school is?
Yeah.
Across the street, the animal farm petting zoo and the pond behind it, that's a triangular shaped pond, Lakeview Pond is called. So that pond has a drainage at the end of it, which is maintained by the owner, Wagner's,
Yeah.
who also runs the shed building and the pond,
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
property.
Oh,
The
you
track
said
now used to be a horse racing track for trucks, many years ago. Anyway, that's sort of the perimeter of the pond, and the far side of the north side of it, there are people putting Bernadescu's here from Stephen Road, who are being affected by water that's backing up as the water rises in the pond. The flow from the wetlands area that drains into the pond normally is affected by that beaver activity, debris blocking the pipes over, as well as what level they keep the far end of the dam at of the pond. And so we're working to try to alleviate flooding that's happening to abutters. Part of that is caused by, and this is what the DPW is involved, a drainage line that runs for Stephen and Roberta Lanes and part of Blackstone Street down into that area. So this town is actually adding water to this area from the storm drains along the streets in that area. So we're trying to come up with something that'll help without violating wetland issues and going through a process that is probably going to be a little more involved than it seemed at first, but it's going to be done right. And we're going to try and make sure we do the best job we can with it.
Yeah, so just for reference, this used to, like, back in the fall when I very first got here, the applicant had already gone through and like created this, but there was a beaver dam here and, this flows right into that dam. So this is what it looked like two weeks ago, I believe, is when I was out there.
He took a beaver?
Took out the beaver dam. I don't know what he did with the beaver.
So this is the south end of the pond as well? Lakeview Pond?
Yes, yep.
So the applicant is the landowner, not DPW?
Correct.
It's complex.
It's on private, this is on private property, so it's.
But I'm assuming there's a drainage easement that DPW has to.
It's so long ago
Oh,
that
this is, no,
Yeah,
just looking at
documentation.
we are way off the
the
reservation.
drainage easement goes along Bernadette's property on the
But
street.
it doesn't get to where this is.
Oh,
It gets to the north side of that area and adds water to the problem, which then backs up into people's properties. So, I'm sorry,
But
Bernadette.
that pipe is from the brook though, the pipe, all that water that goes into the brook from South Main Street, Blackstone Street, all those streets, the water is going into that brook that's going through that pipe.
Oh.
That's going over to his pond, and that pipe is like this small when it should be much larger. That is my understanding
That's
from
not part of the
both Chris.
easement, but it's not part of the easement, so it's on private property, which is why Mr. Wenger is making the fine.
Yeah, involves multiple property owners, including a third party who owns part of the wetlands area that's between the butters along Stephen Road who are affected negatively by having their yards flood regularly, and the Wegner property, which is the pond, and some of the property around the pond, and certainly the dam and so forth is all private property in that. So we need to have somebody come and actually apply to this. The recourse of the butters in that area is to try to get somebody to do something, and short of legal action, which may be hard to pin down even harder than legally, we're trying to find a solution because the town DPW has agreed this is partially added to by them draining, and they've done it for many years, decades probably, into this resource area from street drainage. It's not just surface runoff, which could be dealt with or looked at differently. So it's a complication. We're trying to find some solution that works, that will be done correctly, meaning we're not breaking both legal or.
I don't think we're trying to find a solution. I think we're trying to see if the solution that the parties involved are proposing is legal.
Right, legal and meets the
Right.
meets the
And
bylaws.
sustainable.
Right, that's
It's
better.
legal.
That's
And
right.
we can approve, we can write an order for.
Right, by we help,
Right.
I mean, we're.
Right,
We're the group
we're
that they're
not
coming to.
initiating this
Right,
project.
they're
We
coming
are
to us.
doing our job.
Abutters are coming to us and looking for help. The town is still coming, looking for help. The applicant is.
The DPW is looking for a
Right,
solution.
no, right, DPW, right, that's what I mean, they're looking for help, a solution.
Right.
The
They're trying
property
to
owner,
help the property.
Wegner is willing to work with people. He's probably the least affected by this because his pond, fills up to a certain height and then he opens the dam all the way and it doesn't overflow into the property or anything. Some of this may not even be for sure determinable exactly who's causing what, because it is multiple areas flowing in different areas, so, but in any event, we're not doing nothing about it. We don't know what the solution will be. We haven't promised any for sure guaranteed solution. And it's gonna take a while to figure this out. To even the point where we can decide if we can do anything or if anything could be done and whether it's done legally and meets the regulations or whether we have no jurisdiction ability to do anything. So there are interested parties, there are concerned parties, there are involved parties, and unfortunately, the one we would like to have hear from is not here at the moment. So without the applicant actually himself, a rep, somebody from the DPW here, I agree with Neil, it's kind of difficult to proceed much further without
Yeah, we can't have.
violating.
You can't talk about my site visit?
we can't have the hearing because
Right.
the applicant's not here.
Yeah, and the more we talk about it from the last time, we had something come up where we discussed some stuff and the applicant wasn't present, even if they were a sympathetic party. In the other case, it wasn't so much. I was strongly advised not to open or really get into a meeting. Yeah, a hearing, sorry, we were in the meeting already.
Yeah,
Unless the applicant or their representative are present. And since neither one, we know Mr. Wagner is not present,
Right.
and that hasn't been the case. Do we have any sense of whether or not, Chris, who may not be available for other reasons going forward, will be delegating this off to someone who will be more readily available?
okay, so that's what I was,
That I need to hear. I mean.
yeah,
figure out-
so talking to them today, because of a lot of honestly, just short staff, DPW situation, they are asking to not even make discussion and decision until mid-March, because they're overloaded right now, so they can't.
Well, if they're not actively ready to participate in this, then it shouldn't go further because they're gonna be the most active participants in it, so.
One other thing is that they are still waiting for the scope to come back. That was the one thing about the site visit, not opening it, but when I went out there with the engineer. And so he said he was going to bring a scope, so we're still waiting on that.
Okay, so we're waiting for information. It is proceeding for the,
To get the scope approved, to get paid to do a design. For us to look at, to potentially permit.
So shall we reschedule them for
Yes,
a
yes,
meeting?
Yeah.
yes, we should.
Correct. I think we
Yeah.
need to just, what do you think, Hannah, for March?
Or
Yeah, I
second meeting.
I think the
in March.
second
Yeah, I
week.
think
It's gonna be,
I
yeah.
was gonna say the 27th at the
Okay.
earliest.
Yeah,
We can always continue it beyond the 27th if they're not ready or not,
Yeah.
or partial
I
information.
think we're gonna have to continue to the 27th.
Would it be
Okay.
continuing?
Beg your pardon?
Would it be continuing?
they asked for it.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess just for me, I don't know, so I'm not allowed to talk about what I've done, even just in general.
It's not that we don't appreciate you've done that. I'm just.
Oh, I know that, I'm
I-
just like, I'm wondering.
No, but
they-
outside of the hearing,
Outside,
It's just
I'm allowed to
blurry
inform you
lines.
what my site visit was.
it's
Yeah,
blurry
I-
lines between when
yeah,
you're like
it's
talking
fuzzy.
about a site
Okay.
visit and when
I
you're talking
think
about a
We're
hearing.
being a little cautious, maybe more than we have to be, but without somebody from legal counsel, which we don't need to have at this point in
Yeah.
time. I'd rather play it safe than sorry, and or have you have to repeat it all again. I would suggest if you want to prepare a written summary of your notes and put it in the portal, that wouldn't be in.
That's perfectly appropriate.
So then we
Yeah.
can know about what you did, and it's also fresh in your mind.
Yeah, I'm like,
Where-
you're asking me.
yeah,
a
March-
month
end
from
of
now?
March.
And write it down, yeah, write it down.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah. that's-
Steve, do you
Mike?
have any thoughts?
Yes, Mike,
Go
absolutely, let's reschedule quickly, because I'm reserving comments because we're not in her hearing.
Okay, great. All right, so I will accept the motion to continue at the applicant's request. Applicant's representative's request, to be more specific. So this
27th,
hearing for what is the address, 152?
10:52.
1052, thank you.
You were close.
Yes, to the evening of March 27th at 7 PM potentially.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Ariane will second.
Ariane, second, thank you, online. Any other discussion? Brenda, you got the 27th?
I'm sorry?
27th will be,
Yes, I wrote
but
that
you can
down.
feel free to check. Thank you for coming tonight, appreciate it. Okay, hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Steve, I.
Ariane, I.
Mike, okay, that's unanimous, thank you very much. Okay.
For the other business, Nate is here for National Grid.
Right, Nate, are you prepared to?
Steve has his hand.
Thank you.
I'm
everybody.
sorry, I can't see it.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, he
I think
Hi.
that's,
Oh, it's-
Thank you, good night.
Oh.
Thank you, Bernadette.
It's like in the Zoom call.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Go ahead, Nate, you look like
Oh,
you're
okay.
about to talk.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This will be quick. It's a very straightforward project. For the record, Nate Goshgarian with LEC Environmental, presenting on behalf of the applicant, which is National Grid. This project is the replacement of two existing poles along Lakeview Avenue on the eastern side of Silver Lake. It's the two existing poles which are going to be replaced are within 100 feet of BVW and bank. This fits under the maintenance exemption under the act. And so that's why we've taken this route in terms of presenting it. Because it doesn't apply for the permitting for an RDA or a NOI.
Just a one-for-one replacement?
Yeah, yep, two poles,
Picture,
Like just
Placement in
a
kind.
general with actual.
Just
the one that showed
just your, not transmission poles, just regular domestic poles?
yes,
Yeah, just regular.
yep, correct.
power poles, yeah.
Yeah, just regular ones. not-
Okay, yeah, I'm asked Hannah to show the map that you provided with the
Oh, there we go,
information.
okay.
Okay, just to give people a sense, so the two red triangular or square rectangular areas are the two poles, Silver Lake's there, Lakeview Ave, for those of you who are familiar with that location, if not, let's give you a better sense. This is the southwest side of the lake. I'm sorry, southeast side. No, Silver Lake.
Silver Lake.
Silver Lake. Okay. So they're obviously in sensitive areas near wetlands. They obviously need to be replaced or they wouldn't be doing it and spending the money and time and effort. The only question I had, made in the comment that you, or had the description was the vegetative control. It's gonna be mechanical, not, chemical, correct?
Control. It's gonna be manual. This is just, are you talking about the vegetation maintenance?
Yeah, maintenance, or there was some talk about some removal or not tree trimming. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about other, it sounded like other vegetative. It was a little general in the description. Maybe it's just scroll.
Probably just boilerplate.
Yeah, sure, I can clear it up. It's just very topical, like branch removal that inhibits the installation. And is within 10 feet of the line. So that's really the extent of it. Branches or limbs that directly interact with the placement of the pole or the distribution line.
It says it does not involve.
Yeah, I saw that. So it was just minor vegetative management was what caught my eye in the proposed, it's the second line below proposed project. So that was the minor vegetative management. It wasn't something in addition to trimming and so forth.
No, the second
That
paragraph.
is correct.
Fleshes that out.
Yep, correct.
Just want to make sure. Okay, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, and as they said, they don't really have to come through us for all of this because they are exempted under the bylaw and the regulations. But it
Nate,
is-
Steve
Yes.
Kohler, I have one question.
Sure.
The removal and installation equipment would all be located on the road.
That is a great question, and the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't impact the wetlands or the pond.
It's hard to get off the road there.
Yeah.
Road, I know.
That rather steep end right there.
Without a canoe.
Yeah, they're on a boat.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we don't need to take a vote on this, I don't believe, since he's not actually asking for permission to do anything. So it's.
Thank you.
The information is very helpful.
Thanks, Nate.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thanks for your
you.
time, everybody. Appreciate it.
Quick and
Have a good
straightforward.
night.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Transparent.
Yeah, it's nice. I found the power utility companies going through town, whether it's one of the really super high power lines or the other utilities, have been pretty good about keeping us informed, even if they don't actually have to. And that I think speaks for both the town's reputation as well as at least people that we're dealing with in the local areas of the utility. company.
Mostly we deal with them on transmission wire.
Okay.
You know, up on 126, North Bellingham,
Oh,
by the
yeah.
Medway line where it comes through there, that transmission line, when they're in there replacing poles,
We
they
have
have to,
We have a major substation that's right.
Yeah.
Over the border.
they have to do crossings and, you know, wetland stuff like that. So they come in and present on that, and that's usually a lot more of a bigger presentation and a lot more. Because there's just more impacts with, you know, putting down the vegetation mats and working in sensitive areas, but they do a nice job with, you know, cleaning up after themselves.
Yeah. They replaced a couple of poles right down the street from me last year. They do a great job cleaning up.
But the transmission stuff is, a lot, you know, obviously a lot more work. You need a lot more equipment and time frames and stuff like that. So, but they're pretty good about making nice presentations, and they do a good job with it. They hire pros to do everything.
do they have to beef up their poles at all for flood control? Or like, because that looked like it was a zone A. So like,
No.
would they have to,
No,
He didn't say they did, and I'm sure if they wanted to, they would have told us now if they felt it was relevant. I can't ask Nate to come back because he's not here now. It's okay, but that's not a bad
no,
question.
I was just kind of curious, which is why
I
I
sus-
didn't ask when he
Yeah.
was here.
Yeah. Okay, what else do you have on the agenda besides?
Voting on electronic signatures.
Why don't you just summarize,
Oh, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah,
for the-
if we just read the statement on that document and you guys all say aye.
the one that says, I swear this is the last time we're gonna have to vote, no.
Yep,
No.
yeah, read that.
You wanna give me this statement to read over?
Yeah,
I'll read it.
yeah, there you go, it's on the portal.
All right, Ariane, if you wouldn't mind reading, this is something we are going to then make a vote on.
Do you want me to share the screen too?
Sure, why not?
Okay. I think I need permission first.
Pam, could you provide permission, please?
You should be all set.
Thank you, Pam.
Great, thanks. Zoom in there. Okay, town letterhead. Certificate of vote authorizing signatures pursuant to General Law, Chapter 110G. On February 14th, 2024, the Town of Bellingham Conservation Commission met in open session through publicly accessible video conferencing software pursuant to temporary provisions enacted by Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to amending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and extended by Governor Maura Healey on March 29th, 2023. At this duly held hearing, the following action was taken. Motion to authorize the Bellingham Conservation Commission agent Hannah Crawford to physically sign Bellingham Conservation Commission documents on behalf of individual Bellingham Conservation Commission members. Who seconded the motion?
So I'll obviously add the correct name, or if you want to do it right now, you can do that, but
I'll second it.
Okay, motion was seconded by Neil Stanley. Thank you, Neil. Any other questions about the motion that we are about to vote on? For the final time ever, to satisfy this. All in favor? We'll do a roll call vote.
Let's take a roll call.
I'm gonna read right down now. Thank you, Ariane. Mike O'Haron, aye. Neil Stanley,
Aye.
Ariane Barden.
Aye.
No, Lois, she's not present. Steve Kohler.
Aye.
Thank you. That is a unanimous vote
sweet.
and
Unanimous or by majority?
it's both.
Unanimous.
It has the joy of being both.
And then I sign that.
And then we will sign. All right, thank you. That's for the record. And then we'll go to, who are you sending that to? Larry?
I'll send it to Larry and then I'm gonna forward it to the contact at Norfolk County Registry of Deeds.
Right, by the way, just so both the
Yeah.
two new members to be, as well as the interns know, our board is usually comprised of 7 members and plus an administrator, Hannah, and hasn't been for a while. We did check because some questions came up when we were shorthanded about what a quorum is and what the right number is to have for votes and stuff like, because you don't want to vote on a bunch of stuff, I know you didn't have the right number. The answer given by our town council is that the correct number is based on the total number, a majority based on the total number of every seat was filled positions, which is 7. So we need to have 4 people at every meeting or else the meeting can't legally happen because it won't have a quorum. So there's no sense in none of the votes can happen or anything else. So having 7 members makes it a lot easier to have 4 people here in case somebody's out sick or not available. So that's great. And that's why having a quorum, it's a motion there was passed either unanimously or by majority. In this case, 4 is a majority. And that's how many we have. So 4 out of 7. Okay.
Does this allow you to vote electronically too?
That's what we just voted on.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
No, signatures.
Yeah, signatures.
Oh, yeah.
Not voting.
Yeah, not voting.
Not voting.
Right,
Signatures.
yeah, signatures, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's sign the other
We
one.
just go in, click on the signature, we
Yeah.
log in, click on.
We thought we were all set, but apparently there's still a little more glitches with the state, so we want to make sure that they're happy and.
Wow, we've been doing that for years.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Stay
Good, well, congratulations, you finally
No.
got through.
Well,
No,
No,
don't
wait.
jinx it, don't jinx it.
Yeah.
Except,
Thursday night. I automatically look at the door.
You think someone that's
Okay.
Extension.
Extension for order of condition for Lake Hiawatha. Larry said that he spoke to you.
Briefly, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I wasn't realizing he was asking for an extension. I thought he was just, they were just looking to get permission to have the treatment done. But why don't you just describe what the,
There's a treatment that happens at Lake Hiawatha.
and an extension, meaning,
There is a DEP filing number, I have an order of conditions, and I have, paperwork, requesting the extension. I guess my only question is if this is a continuing thing, couldn't it just be a continuing?
I thought that they just came just each year said, can we have permission to treat this case like
I don't
Hiawatha?
think it's
And,
yearly, this one.
or, okay, maybe it's not because every year, so I'm not sure what the extension will work.
I think we do it for a couple of years at a time.
Maybe.
For some reason,
Did it say how
there
long
should
the
be
extension
records
is
on
for
it.
on the documents you have?
What's it for?
I would have to pull
Treatment
it back
of
up.
Oh, yeah, for weeds.
Yeah, we
Usually
can.
treatment.
So
Yeah.
Lake Hiawatha and Lake Silver Lake are the two lakes in town that have associations. Those associations pay for treatment of, well, actually,
No, Silver Lake is, we pay for it.
we own,
The town pays for it.
right, town owns Silver Lake and the beach. Conservation
Actually,
Commission,
actually, we own it.
right, yeah, technically.
Yeah,
Conservation Commission.
And I was reading that today,
Yeah,
yeah. conservation.
So periodically
Yeah,
it'd be
beach,
treated from
yeah.
weed growth because
We let the town use it.
phosphorus and other treatments,
Little child.
fertilizer from backyards, and everything else has been causing huge blooms of stuff over the years. And if you see the lake, Silver Lake aerials that they showed us on
Oh,
a
it's.
meeting years ago,
The north end.
50 years ago,
Yeah,
it was much
it's
bigger
blocked.
than then,
Or
but
cancer.
it was shrunk down tremendously by growth around the edges. Anyway, so treatment, mechanical treatment, chemical treatment, whatever means are being used, needs to be approved because it's a resource area, and so the Conservation Commission is regularly asked for those two lakes to get the okay to do that, and it's through approved companies, and Larry did tell me that this particular company is one they've used last year, and since we approved it last year, I guess, or was approved last year, I said I didn't think there would be a problem with extending it, or continuing to approve it.
We don't treat all of Silver Lake.
I think
We treat
Hiawatha
around the
pays
beach.
for it themselves. don't
They do. Hiawatha does, yeah.
Hiawatha
They
has
own
a
the
private
lake. They
association.
own the lake.
That's owned by all the property owners around it, and they pay for it, so, but they still, it's a resource area.
We still
and-
need a permit.
Still need a permit. So, he's not asking for a vote for this, correct? Or is he?
You do have to vote on this because it's an order of conditions.
And do we have an order of conditions to refer to as
Right
updated?
now, like, have I seen it? Yes, I don't have it on my laptop right now. I can search for it and. Do you wanna like see the special order conditions? What are you?
Well, I just like to know that we're referring to a document that exists, because.
It does, 100%, because I looked it up and I can give you the DEP filing number before we leave.
The extension for.
Yeah, we should have it in the minutes. We should have it in the minutes with all the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have, we can tie, so we can tie it back.
Okay.
So
yep.
here's my question. If we know that they're going to go ahead and do it, they're not gonna do it yet. They're not gonna be doing it for a couple months, correct?
Yeah, they generally do it in May.
My suggestion is go ahead and I think unless any of the other two members online, Ariane or Steve, you have any other questions or issues about this? Eventually going forward, once we get a document that we can actually say we're approving the extension of and have that for the record. Do any of you have other questions that Hannah need to research?
I believe we
Are you-
should see the document first.
Okay.
Yeah, are you saying you wanna do it at a future meeting when we have
Yes,
the
I just want to
document?
make sure there are no other questions that Hannah needs to research before, so if she presents a document, we've already answered all the questions we think we need to. She's got the document, we'll review it, if it makes sense.
We'll do it on the 28th.
We can do it on
Yeah.
the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
That good for you, Steve and Ariane?
Good to me.
Good with me.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're not gonna act on that at this point in time, no vote needed, because we're gonna look at the document, but we are moving forward on that, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. All right,
The last thing I had on there was MACC, just knowing who, if anybody wants to go, who, so I can make sure that I pay for them.
right, so for the new members who've heard about MACC, the annual meeting, training workshops.
I know I would have gone, but I'm not here. I'm traveling on that day.
They have made it a lot easier during COVID in a way for people to participate. I think the attendance went way up. So this is an annual meeting that's held by the Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners, MACC. And it's for commissioners, agents, administrators like Hannah, and it's held, usually it's for many years, it's been held live at Holy Cross in Worcester, the campus for
What
one
days are gonna be?
Saturday.
Second.
Second of March.
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Second March. And that is a chance for people to get together, and see a whole bunch of exhibits and displays by everybody from environmental control companies to the state wildlife fisheries department, or they have tables and so on. So in between and around that, there is a series of workshops, training sessions. You can get to be trained on various workshops around how to become a commissioner, get your fundamentals of being commissioner. So once you've been approved as commissioner, there are 8 or 10 now, basically classes, certificates that you get for how to run a meeting, how to approve bylaw changes, or how to negotiate through various things. As well as a lot of just workshops on how to identify vernal wetlands and so forth that aren't part of a training per se, but for good education levels. It's pretty cool. They've been doing it online for a couple of years now. They're going back to a hybrid where they'll still offer people on the online option, but people can go to the campus and for that day, wander around and do the cost. You sign up ahead of time. The town pays for anybody on the commission that wants to go to that. And it's a great learning experience. So
Once a year though, right?
once a year for that. Now, there are many other workshops and
Okay.
presentations probably year round, many of them online now, because they found people really receptive to that. Some of them have to be in person somewhere. They can go to resource area. What's the one in Audubon Sanctuary in I'll say Lincoln. Anyway,
Someone for,
what's that?
someone for.
Maybe Drummond Farm, yeah, there's nature sanctuaries, sometimes they'll go and they'll have a birding thing there, or how to identify as well as hands-on with the scientists there, so you'd have to go to some of those, but the ones online, so forth, they're actively, once you're officially a member and Hannah sends the information out to MACC, they'll start sending you information regularly, and you can sign up for a lot of those throughout the year to continue your training, learn your fundamentals. So I used to have to wait for annual meeting to get any kind of training, but not so much anymore, so that's good. So if you are participating, Hannah, Ariana, Steve, since the rest of us are here in the room, please let Hannah know as soon as possible. You're gonna be going, so she make sure.
Now would be great. I've been asking for a month, so if you know, tell me.
Hannah, you and I spoke earlier.
Yeah, so Steve's, yeah, good.
So Ariana's the only other person that needs to let you know.
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay. I'll
Or
bother
say she was
you.
Going to, that's right. Okay,
Yeah,
I
put me
didn't-
down, please, Sam.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, I am attending. If anyone else
Okay.
is interested.
If that encourages anyone.
Um,
Oh, never mind, if Steve's going, then.
Well, we can't have a quorum, so.
You can there, you just can't talk to each other. All right, I'm looking down your list of things here.
I think that was it.
The
That's it.
minutes, we don't have a 110 minutes, I looked everywhere, I cannot find them, January 10th.
I never sent them.
I don't see them anywhere, if I missed them, I did look through Kaya's rough draft and had sent you something just at the end of the day today, so. Talk about it's good, first draft, we're gonna have to, I think, make sure that we follow a little more formally, because like the postings, and basically, I think what Hannah can do is show you how some of the previous meetings have been done up so that we meet legal requirements for like saying all the hearing information, who the applicant was, the date, the time.
And to keep it consistent so
No
that,
consistency.
that they, if somebody's going through minutes, everything follows along.
I generally read through and catch some stuff, other members will read and catch something, and sometimes it's as simple as spelling name wrong, or I wasn't there for that meeting, or things important, but we also make sure
Mike
that,
catches everything.
I try to
Yeah.
make sure if I was somebody in the public reading it, that I'd have some sense of what went on. It's not ever meant to be as detailed, and I've taken minutes here in these meetings before, so I give full credit to Tina or anybody else that actually tasked to take them down while people are talking. Then being able to play it back and listen to it on, transcribed is difficult too, so. That's appreciate your effort in doing that, and we'll continue to work with you guys and both of you if you want to, it's a good skill to be able to do that. Although I'm always.
I have a few comments that I'm gonna send to Hannah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um,
It's a ongoing process. The 24 minutes or so, we also try to review, edit and approve any minutes, so they get regularly and consistently posted for the public record. Once they're in the public record, they don't get changed
I
in the minutes. So
I sent it to you on the 22nd of January.
okay, I'm sorry. It's-
But
I'll
if
look for a change.
people don't, I could just resend it.
Okay.
Um,
Well, both January ones is within the realm of not being a big deal. We can do. Okay, don't think we have anything else on the agenda.
Mike,
Steve, yeah?
I'd like to touch upon 17 Bellstone site visit if I could. That is not a hearing, correct? Wasn't that an
Just call it
informational visit?
Oh, we have all these pictures.
Yes, yeah, that's an informational, so we can discuss that.
So I went to the Haddad house and as a backup for anyone, you got a situation between two neighbors, been going for a while about water management, one affecting the other to the point of financial damage, of which she's received a judgment for a fair amount that the neighbor refuses to pay. So
Contentious to see.
it is. I want to separate it into two
Pictures
issues.
of the site.
Thank
The first issue, and probably the oldest, is a long-standing water issue on that site to the point where the developer, and right now the problem is water leaving a wetland area. I assume it's a wetland, but it's coming to the surface, leaving the backyard, migrating across the properties to the front of the house where the town last summer installed the storm drain on Mrs. Haddad's lawn in the hope that the water would run across the surface and go into the drain. Back when the development was made, well behind the house, there was a French drain, if you will, installed deep into the woods across several properties and filled with gravel. Now, at the moment, it has a fair leaf bed over the top of it, so I don't know how much water is migrating into it. But the water that I saw going across the yard at the site visit was not coming from that swale. I don't, it's my guess that sure, perhaps in low water periods over the years, maybe the water source behind their properties, theirs being Mrs. Haddad's and the neighbor, dried up. But in the high water volume we've seen in the last 2 years, we're seeing water resurface and expand places. It hasn't been a long time. So that's the existing problem. It has been a water issue there for a long time. Back during the development, they tried to modify the site, and it would be my casual opinion at the moment that the engineering of that wasn't sufficient to stop the water migrating. So now the water leaves that wetland area, migrates across the grass. They put a little tiny trench from the backyard to the front, and it runs open, saturating property. And that trench shares some of the square footage of Mrs. Haddad's leach field, saturating one end of the leach field. So that's not a good thing. Now, relative to the neighbor, he has his sump pump coming out of the basement, dumping onto his lawn, which goes downhill into that trench. When I was there, I did not see any water coming out of the pump, out of the discharge pipe. He was told by DPW to connect it, to pipe it all the way to the storm drain. So it wasn't using the surface trench, but he has not done that. And according to Mrs. Haddad, claims he won't. If you were to remove the neighbor's situation, I don't believe that would dry up the water. Now, I understand he modified his backyard in the wetland area, but that didn't add water. It just moved it around a little bit where it was going to eventually find its way to the front anyway. So that's what I observed. I have some pictures. I don't have them where I can share them, but the water that does run across the yard, if you were to look at the bottom of the water flow at the algae growth, it's indicative of it being wet for long periods of time, months.
You think the
So-
hydrology behind the house has changed over the years, Steve, and more
I-
water is getting into that wetland somehow?
Perhaps not changed by physical change, maybe a little bit by the other landowner.
So I mean, there might be more volume of water getting into that area than there was previously,
Very possibly.
like originally, I mean.
Yes,
Or
very
maybe-
possibly, Neil. We're seeing that in many places. We're seeing this even at my house, that the underground aquifers are surfacing when they weren't, and those that have always surfaced are surfacing with a higher volume. And that's what I think's happening here.
Yeah, I was gonna
Right.
say artesian conditions, but that's a little different, in my opinion, to artesian conditions, because that's probably caused by the flood or like the recent flooding that we've had, whereas artesian is just sort of all the time, like water springing up out of the ground.
You might have a perch situation at that one area.
Um. Michael Connor came into my office today after he's 13 Bellstone Drive. And he was asking for advice and he was like, you know, he's aware of what's going on at 17 and 19. And he said it's a bigger picture though, because there's this retention pond that was put in at the end of the 80s, maybe early 90s. That supposedly the catch basin that the DPW put in is supposed to bring that water directly to this. But the problem with that is that this property owner built a shed and some other things on the easement for the DPW to access the retention pond.
Well, that's easy to fix.
And move it.
Uh-huh.
So no one has like, I guess every summer DPW college kids,
Yeah.
Go
they should-
through,
they
clean
should be
them out.
maintaining that.
and this one has not been for many, many, many years because they can't access it.
Hannah, can you zoom in on 17 and 19 for a
Uh,
moment?
Yep.
Part of our.
Okay,
Do
process.
you
slide
want like
that
this or like an
easement?
aerial?
No, right there's good.
We're
The
doing
swale,
it, right?
the French, the French drain swale I'm talking about would be at the right-hand property line. And the water migrates in between the two houses into the street.
You're talking about right here?
Yeah, that's where the drain is. Now go, follow that line all the way back
To the
towards
right.
intersects. Yep, keep going. Keep going, right, keep going. Keep going, right there.
Oh.
That French drain that's in the woods runs across the back of those properties, several of them.
Where
And
is it
it's-
supposed to direct the flow?
That would never be permitted.
And again, it's just a trench filled with gravel, and when I scrape back the leaf cover, you can still see the gravel.
It's probably all silted up too underneath,
That was, so that was one of the main reasons
filled up with
why,
fines. Yeah.
Michael Connor came, is he was asking like if they wanted to improve the swale in the back. Who's responsible for that? And I said, it would be like collectively all four of you guys coming together. Cause it's all on private property, right?
Except the water doesn't come out of the ground that far back where it surfaces. Hannah, right where Mrs. Haddad's pool is, above you can see a white dot and a white line. That's the fence above that right there. That's a cinder block wall that she put in to help direct the water. That's where the water is surfacing and about 10 feet further into the woods. And it just comes up out of the ground. When I was there, you could see it flowing. And of course, it migrates in between the two houses all the way across the yard. And the Haddad's leach field is in the front yard. I don't know it's an issue that falls in our jurisdiction.
Unless they have a resource area that's clearly defined, or we can get delineated that is in our purview and or town property, that is conservation property, I don't see how it is ours either. If the water starts springing up out of the ground in somebody's backyard and floods a bunch of people, we can be sympathetic, but I don't think we can do anything about it.
I mean, at best, Michael, we
Unless
could,
it's determined to be a regulated resource.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if there's a resource area that we're, there behind any of those people's houses that we can identify, that's one thing. We don't have anything on the GIS maps that indicates there's any kind of wetlands or anything there. I mean, it's woods, but that's not
I don't think so.
a wetlands resource area.
Steve, did you notice what kind of trees?
um,
Oaks, maples, red
I
maples?
would say some probably oaks and maples. I didn't seem to notice many pines. Again, I have pictures, but I don't have access to them right now.
We
And
might
you're
have
sure
to
it was
look-
coming out of the ground? There wasn't any like
Oh,
pipes or
absolutely.
anything?
we may have to-
Absolutely.
Go out there once it
Interesting.
leaves out.
There was a pipe transporting it from that area
Yeah.
further to the front, but it's not
The applicant and the last meeting.
coming out of the ground.
How, for any of the members that were at the last meeting, was it the last meeting we discussed this or the one before that?
The last one.
Last meeting.
Yeah.
So the last meeting, other than saying that, like Steve did, the Conservation Commission members to the abutter have it and said, that we would take a look at it if we could swing by there at some point in time. Did we make any other commitments to action that anybody can recall?
We talked about potentially doing an enforcement against the neighbor for altering a wetland.
Yeah.
If
If,
we
I
found out
think
that
the
it was a
question though
resource area.
was, if we could establish whether there was wetlands, there were the caveat to that, we can only issue an enforcement order if we're sure, and by sure, I mean somebody to actually go out and delineate it, the wetlands that has been altered. So if they say, just on either side of this person's property is wetlands, and right in the middle there, they dug it all up, then obviously that area is not gonna be still wetlands, it's dug up and disturbed, but if you can prove it, I think we have to do that before we can consider actually doing any kind of enforcement. Order. I think we did talk about, though, you're right, Arian, options that down the road could be considered if. But I don't think
Yeah.
we've been even committed to identifying how we would determine if there is a resource area, like we get, if the commission, for
Well-
example, would be willing to pay.
Well, we could go out on Mrs. Haddad's property and.
Yeah, we could take a
poke
look
around on her
ourselves,
property.
especially whether we want to get somebody to.
Well, I think we could.
If
I
she
could look
wants,
and see
if she wants our help in solving this issue, then we can tell her that that's what she would have to do, is have those wetlands delineated.
If
and
we
then
think it
file.
looks wet, we've seen enough wet in our lives.
Right, I think as Neil was suggesting, I don't know if Aaron and you, Steve could hear, but Neil is suggesting we take a look when springtime comes, the ground's not frozen. We can see a little bit more, maybe some vegetation starting to come in, so we can determine maybe if we, based on our group experience, can identify whether it looks and has a sense of being wet with some vegetation or something. That may give us enough reason to think that we could suggest that option to her. I don't want her spending money and time trying to pay somebody to verify that it's not anything like a real wetlands at all, and if we have a sense of that, plus which it wouldn't hurt to have a couple more commission members look at it. I think if we're taking any kind of action at all, even saying that we'll do that in the spring, when the weather looks like it's turning, and keep it on the radar with Hannah to bring it up at a meeting down the road or via an email thread to see if people want to do that, I think that's sufficient at this point in time. Anybody else have any other points or questions about it?
No,
Thank you for taking a look at it, by the way, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
you're welcome. It's my understanding that Mrs. Haddad probably believes, based on our conversation, that if she can get the neighbor to stop dumping, the whole water problem would go away. I'm fairly convinced that is not the case at all, especially since I didn't see any water coming discharged from the pipe. And I can follow the water coming from the backyard to the front.
That's a good point, yeah.
I think the other issue is that the town needs to enforce its easement and maintain that basin. That's not that's absolutely not helping.
Yeah.
Is that even a basin? It's listed as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
wetland.
I think all the
It's
ponds
man-made.
are
It's pretty.
labeled that way on that GIS, aren't they? I mean, I don't
I
wanna,
don't think so.
really, I don't wanna like make people dizzy going
Go
around
to
on
like
this map, but-
Candlelight Lane, for example. I know Candlelight Lane has that big basin, right?
Yeah, they do.
I mean, if there's an easement, if there's a maintenance easement to it, it's probably man-made. It looks square.
Yeah,
I agree with your previous thought that the best thing we could do is support the town to fund a delineation of wetlands. If it's not indicating as such, that might have been a convenient way when it was built in the nineties. Maybe it was a mistake, but in any case, from what I saw, it's certainly worthy a revisit.
Okay.
This might be too new for GIS.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Okay, well, I don't think we're doing anything much more unless somebody has some other, pointed, thought to or action that they'd like to have us consider take, other than we agree that there is some need to look at it some more. The timing probably should be when the weather has improved somewhat and or made it better for taking at least a bird's eye view or a close-up view, being this is Haddon's property and anything else, any other areas that seem relevant. And in the meantime, maybe we can inquire with DPW if they actually plan to move on trying to get access to that area via the town saying we have the right to go in here and clear this and we're going to do so. So you better either move your shed or provide a way for us to get around it because we're coming in. If they're going to want to do that, if they're not going to, then we at least know that's not going to improve on that end where it's receiving the water. But in the meantime, I'm just going to recommend that we just keep this on our radar, so to speak, and we will continue to look at it down the road a little ways. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, if no one has any other points, questions, anybody that you for, any questions, points? All right, thank you. All right, well,
Motion to adjourn?
we can look to it 8:30. That is 8:30, not 9:30, people. This has been relatively short. We will accept a motion to
Just
adjourn
made
the
one.
meeting
I just made one.
by Neil. We'll accept that motion by Neil. Yeah,
I'll ignore Neil.
give it
Second.
to Neil. Do we have a second?
Second.
Sure. Second by Steve, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Ariane,
All
I.
right, Steve, aye. Thank you very much,
All right.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.